And I think with that, we can move on to the next game, a game that, maybe we didn't think was going to be as interesting as it looks now at the beginning of the season. But these are two teams that are right in the thick of their conference and maybe trying to vie for a playoff berth. I don't know if for the Denver Broncos, who are hosting the Atlanta Falcons in this game, I should say, I don't know if their last second voodoo magic loss to the Chiefs with that blocked field goal is going to have a detrimental effect going forward. I think that the beautiful thing about having Sean Payton as your head coach is maybe you're able to buck that trend of having
Yeah.
a loss demoralize you and hurt you that badly. But they're going up against the Falcons, who obviously are also coming off a loss to the Saints. But we've seen with the Falcons that their offense, when it's clicking, is able to be explosive, going up against a great Broncos defense that was impressive, uh, um, has been impressive all season. This is a game that it's going to be tough to pick. Christian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, very tough game. Again, we've mentioned the Broncos defense all year. I feel like Zach Allen. Um, if we had to do an all bulletin board team at the end of the year, Zach Allen's definitely on this team. Um, just got to shout him out again. Um, but I think that is a very tough loss to go through. But at the same time, Atlanta just had a very tough loss as well. Um, and I think almost in many regards a worse loss. Um, I mean, Denver lost to an undefeated team. New Orleans has been very up and down and has not been very good since week 2, arguably. Um, I think ultimately it comes down to what we're going to get from Kirk Cousins week to week. Um, there's some inconsistencies. I think we're still seeing. Um, I think Denver's defense is going to really uh, be a problem, at least for the offensive front. I know Atlanta's offensive line has been a little banged up. Dahlman, Bergeron, Newsill, all dealing with some injuries. Um, so in that regard, I just think with what they have up front on the Denver front for defense, I think they're gonna make it a tough day for Kirk Cousins. I like Denver a lot, and I like Denver to stay alive at least for the time being, stay in this playoff hunt. Um, I believe if the season were to end today, they are in the hunt for. They would be the 7th seed, so they'd get in right now. The question is if they can hang on. I think if a win this week would be huge, and I do think they get it done versus Atlanta, who they just seem to be sputtering week to week.
One thing that I've noticed just watching Denver and then watching Atlanta, kind of just how both teams play, is at least just in terms of how Denver likes to attack the quarterback, they really go off their edge rushers, and that does kind of leave open what are kind of have become Kirk Cousins' favorite plays of just swing passes to Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. So I think one way to maybe attack this is maybe looking at the running backs out of the backfield. I mean, especially Bijan to go over what I think would probably be around 2.5 to 3.5 receptions. Um, just because I think they are going to be able to get pressure on Kirk Cousins, and it might disrupt them being able to move the ball down the field, force them to check the ball, down in the flat, and then from there, I mean, Bijan Robinson is one of the guys in the league. I think that if you get him the ball in any kind of space, even if it's behind the line of scrimmage, can make an explosive play happen. So maybe looking at his over receiving yards, could be a play in this one. I think the only play I kind of like in this is the under, just with the under at 44, I should say, just with how I think I think the disruption that we might see from the Broncos on the defensive side of the ball. Kirk not looking, I'm kind of just falling back to the mean after really looking good for a couple of weeks. Just limiting the amount of possessions they're going to have past the 50-yard line, and then in the quote green area. And we saw their struggles on special teams rear its ugly head last week with Younghoe Koo. Yeah, I think there could be issues for Atlanta trying to get the ball, in the end zone. But I mean, they're going to have to be able to move the ball some way. So I mean, maybe looking at the running backs over receptions, over yards, as well on the ground. And I think they also, we'll see what the availability of Drake London is going to be in this game. But yeah, it was really you didn't really see anyone else in the Falcons pass game step up outside of Bijan Robinson, getting those exact same kind of outside swing passes from Kirk Cousins, being able to put the ball in the end zone 2 times. So yeah, I lean the under, and I think I like Denver, especially as a home dog in this one. I think they're playing inspired football, and Falcons. We're going to see this actually maybe a pretty big make or break point in their season. Just with how, I mean, I still think they're going to win that division, but it's, I mean, kind of the best of a bad situation when it comes to the NFC South with them.
Yeah, they're the Falcons. I kind of pulled in a similar regard to the Texans, and where they on paper are an above average football team just based off their weapons and talent, but they just kind of seem to play really really close games and or leave themselves susceptible to losing some stinkers. I honestly think that I'm with you guys. I like Denver in this game. I think Denver is still a little bit underrated. Bo Nix has quietly put together a couple solid games over the last couple weeks. We talk about a team that should have beaten Kansas City at Arrowhead. Again, I know that's a divisional matchup, and they beat Kansas City last year once. So there's kind of some familiarity there, but I think they're a really underrated football team. And we talked a lot at length about their defense, I think, throughout this entire podcast, but they're I think you can make the argument they might be better than Atlanta. There's a better football team at the moment. I think they played a little bit of a tougher schedule. And Atlanta's won some really really close football games, and they've gotten the ball to bounce their way. So yeah, I like Denver here, in altitude, in the 3 o'clock window, which is not Kirk Cousins' sweet spot, as we all probably know. He's a noon guy. So yeah, I you talk about maybe throwing off the routine of Kirk Cousins. Yeah, get him in altitude and play him outside of the noon window, and yeah, I like Denver here. Also want to shout out. It looks like Audric Estime has kind of forced his way into getting carries in that backfield, and he's looked like a real solid kind of chain mover slash. You can hand the ball off to him, and he'll get at least 3.5, 4 yards every time. He showed some flashes over the last couple of weeks as a rookie running back. So him and Bo Nix a little bit underrated in my opinion. You've got the veteran weapon in Cortland Sutton. And that defense again is just an outstanding defense that plays together. That I think will have the advantage here at home. So I definitely like Denver -2, -2.5.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on this game that the Denver Broncos are in a great position to win. The pressure is on the Atlanta Falcons to come in and get a win here. I got to give the edge to Denver, especially because of the defense. They have a more solid defense playing at home, and the coaching advantage of Sean Payton is really key here in this case. I think that Sean Payton is going to be able to get this right, make sure the team is ready to play, and consistently build on the success that they've had this season. If they were able to win that game and just get the field goal off against the Chiefs, this is a team that we would have some serious conversations about now, making some real noise in the AFC. And I don't think we can just dismiss that because they ended up losing the game. I think it's a sign in a good direction. And having Sean Payton, I trust him as the head coach of that team, and I trust them to get a big win over Atlanta this weekend. Do we have any other thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I just think losing like the way they did, that with a team that's got a good coach like Sean Payton, I think that he's able to galvanize that. Like, all right, well, this leaves a sour taste in our mouth. We've got 1 week. Let's go get it back. You know what I mean? And I think that team will buy that sort of message coming from Sean Payton, because this looks like a team that, from defensive coordinator Sean Payton's offense, is pretty much bought in as to what they're selling.
Yeah.
There's no mutinies around here. I mean, Vance Joseph's defense plays really well together as a unit. That offense, I mean, they know the scheme. They've got players that fit that scheme. So I think that they're a team that's just bought in its entirety. And when they lose in the way that they did on Sunday, that they can galvanize that sour taste in their mouth and put pen to paper on a Sunday against a team that, quite frankly, has been a little bit underwhelming so far this year in Atlanta.
Yeah. And to that point, I mean, it feels like Vance Joseph's the perfect defensive coordinator. I mean, we talked about B-Flow a little bit, but B-Flow might get some head coaching looks. I think Vance Joseph is at the stage in his career where it's probably, he's a DC, and that's okay. And with Sean Payton, it might be perfect. So they're really in a good spot.
I mean, I think that with Vance Joseph, it's a special case. I think Vance Joseph is probably the ultimate case of it, when you're literally accepting a defensive coordinator position at an organization where you were the head coach like 3 years ago. I think you pretty much accepted your fate, that you're not going to be a head coach, or that you've kind of hit your ceiling as a coordinator. And hey, no fault to the guy. That the Broncos defense is humming. And I'm not taking anything away from Vance Joseph, but I think, as you said, though, I think to your point about how this is a guy who probably knows his role.
Take notes, Eberflus. Take notes.
Yeah. Oh, Eberflus. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's the ghost of Christmas future for Mr. Matt Eberflus.